Welcome back to The River That Remembers. If you missed our first episode, be sure to check it out. When we last left our young hero Kojo, he was determined to uncover the secrets held by the River Tano, and so our story continues. The night air in the village was thick and heavy. The echoes of drums lingered, a ghostly rhythm, even though every instrument was silent. Kojo stood at the water's edge, his own small drum hanging from his side, a silent weight. He stared into the dark, swirling current. "If the river remembers," he whispered to the night, "then I will enter its memory." With a resolve that defied his fear, he took a step into the water. It was shockingly cold, but the current was surprisingly gentle, like a hand beckoning him forward, pulling him closer into its embrace. The moment the water reached his knees, an impossible thing happened. The river began to glow. A soft, ethereal blue light spreading across its surface like a living aurora. Then, in a dizzying flash, the world flipped upside down. Kojo gasped, finding himself standing on dry ground once more. But this was not his home Tano. The sky above was a deep, bruised purple. The trees were ancient and twisted, and they seemed to whisper in voices he couldn't quite understand. The river beside him was no longer water, but a living entity flowing upward into the dark sky like a magnificent snake made of pure light. Where am I?" he asked, his voice trembling in the strange air. A voice, both familiar and distant, answered from behind him. "You are inside what the river remembers." Kojo spun around. There, shimmering in the purple twilight, stood Effort. She looked exactly as he remembered her, beautiful and kind, but her feet hovered just above the ground, untouched by the strange soil. "You're alive," he cried, a surge of impossible hope rushing through him. Afia offered a sad, gentle smile. "Not alive. Not gone. The river keeps me, until the promise is kept." Kojo reached for her hand, desperate for a tangible connection, but his fingers passed right through hers as if she were made of mist. The heartbreak was sharp, a fresh wound. "How do I fix this? How do I bring you back?" Afia didn't answer directly. Instead, she pointed toward a glowing path that snaked through the whispering trees. "Follow the rhythm," she urged. "It will take you to the first drummer, the one who broke the bond between our people and the river." With a final determined nod, Kojo set off. The sound of drums followed him, a soft and steady beat, like invisible footsteps walking right beside his own. As he walked, shadows moved between the trees' flickering faces from long ago, their eyes watching him silently from the past. The path opened into a wide clearing. In the center, an old man sat beside a crackling fire. His eyes were closed in deep concentration, and he held a magnificent drum adorned with intricate golden carvings. "Are you the first drummer?" Kojo asked, his voice barely a whisper. The man's eyes fluttered open, revealing depths that held centuries of sorrow. "I am Obiri," he said, his voice raspy with age. "I played 4 kings, but I forgot the river's song. My greed made the water bleed." Kojo sat beside him, the warmth of the fire a small comfort in this spectral world. The river wants peace. Tell me what I must do. Tell me how to give it. Obiri sighed, a sound like rustling leaves. There is a song, the song of returning, but it is a dangerous melody. No one can play it unless their heart is pure. If you play it wrong, the river's sorrow will become a flood, and it will drown everything. Kojo looked down at his own small, simple drum. It seemed so insignificant compared to the task ahead. Teach me, Tobiri didn't offer a lesson of the hands. Instead, he placed his palm over Kojo's heart. The rhythm must come from here, he said, his touch both cool and burning. It must come from your heart, not your hands. And with those words, Obiri began to fade, dissolving into a trail of golden light that led deeper into the forest. Kojo knew he had no choice but to follow. As he walked, the forest itself began to change. The trees bent and twisted, their branches forming vivid, living sculptures. He saw his people working by the river, laughing. Then he saw them stealing glittering gold from the riverbed. The images shifted to screams, to panic, to a profound and deafening silence. He covered his ears, but the cries of his ancestors didn't come from the air. They seeped into his skin, into his bones. He witnessed the moment the ancestors turned their backs on the river's warning. He saw the curse take root. Make it stop. He shouted into the spectral chaos. And just like that, the forest fell quiet. When Kojo dared to open his eyes, he was standing before a colossal waterfall. The water wasn't falling. It was frozen, shimmering like a wall of glass, and trapped within it were countless faces, their expressions locked in eternal sorrow. Among them, his heart shattered to see a fierce face appear, her eyes pleading. Kojo, her voice echoed softly, "You must finish the song." But beware, the river tests the heart of the one who plays. Taking a deep, shaky breath, Kojo lifted his drumsticks. He began to play. One soft beat, then another. A simple rhythm born from the hope in his heart. The great waterfall trembled. The ground beneath his feet shook violently. Then a deep, guttural growl rose from the river behind him. He turned, and his blood ran cold. A creature was crawling out of the water. It was enormous, made of churning water and dark mud, with two glowing, malevolent eyes. It was the river guardian, the ancient keeper of memories. "Why do you seek to break the chain of consequence?" Its voice thundered, shaking the very air Kojo breathed. Though his voice shook, Kojo stood his ground. Because the innocent are suffering for a crime they did not commit. The guardian's voice roared in reply. The innocent drink from the same river that the guilty bled into. In the river's memory, no one is free. Defiance surged through Kojo. He played faster, his fear and determination pouring into the rhythm. The sound of his drum echoed the thunder in the sky. The river swirled angrily around him, trying to pull him under, but he kept beating faster, louder, until the sound itself seemed to transform into pure light. The guardian roared in fury and struck the ground. A wall of water erupted, and in an instant Kojo was swept away. He tumbled through the violent waves, through time and memory, and landed hard in a strange, desolate place. It was a dry riverbed, filled not with sand, but with glowing stones. As he got to his feet, whispers emanated from each stone, calling his name. He cautiously picked one up. As his fingers touched it, a vision flooded his mind. He saw his grandmother, Amma, but she was younger, standing by this very river with other women from the village. They were frantically hiding something golden in the mud, their faces etched with fear and guilt. Kojo's chest tightened, a painful realization dawning. Grandma, she had been part of it. His own beloved grandmother had helped hide the stolen gold that first poisoned the water and cursed their people. The river whispered again, a cold, inescapable truth. The truth always flows home. Kojo's heart ached with betrayal and a new, complicated grief. He didn't want to believe it, but he knew with absolute certainty that the river never lied. He began to run, stumbling through the dry riverbed, the whispering stones at his feet. "I will make it right," he shouted to the ghosts of the past. The path of stones led him to a shining doorway, made of swirling water. Without hesitation, he stepped through and found himself back in Tano, but it was a nightmare version of his home. The sky was a terrifying blood red. The people of his village were standing by the river, frozen in place like statues of clay. The water had risen alarmingly high, already covering the floors of their huts. His grandmother Amma stood near the edge, not frozen, but with tears streaming down her weathered face. "Kojo," she said, her voice filled with a lifetime of regret. "The river is angry. It wants me." Kojo shook his head, rushing to her side. "No, it doesn't want you. It wants the truth." Amma managed a weak, heartbreaking smile. "Truth and sacrifice often walk together, my child." She held out her hand, and in it was a small, golden bracelet. It was the very thing he'd seen her hide in his vision. "This is what we hid. Take it. Give it back to the river." Kojo took the bracelet. His hands trembled as the gold burned with an intense, otherworldly light. The river began to roar, louder and louder, its anger palpable. But he didn't hesitate. He stepped back into the raging water, holding the bracelet high above his head for the red sky to see. "I return what was stolen," he cried out, his voice ringing with conviction. In the next moment, the river swallowed him whole. He was pulled into a swirling vortex of pure memory. Inside the current, he saw the faces of his ancestors reaching for him, weeping, and finally smiling. They surrounded him, their voices no longer screams, but whispers, a chorus of rhythms he somehow understood deep in his soul. He lifted his drum one last time. "Let this song end the curse," he declared to the spirits of the river. Then he began to play. It was the song of returning. One beat for truth. One beat for forgiveness. One beat for every soul the river had kept in its sorrowful memory. The water around him glowed a brilliant healing blue, then shifted to a radiant gold. The current spun faster and faster, lifting him up, not with anger, but with grace. The ancient voice of the river rumbled, no longer a threat, but a soft, profound whisper. Remember, child of Tano, even rivers have hearts. Kojo smiled as the light enveloped him completely. Then everything went white. What happened to Kojo, and what will become of Tano now that the truth has been returned? The story is far from over. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss what happens next. We'll see you in the next chapter.